try just to advocate, you know, what your rights are, not necessarily from a legal aspect, but you know, if you're not harming anybody, you're keeping your distance, and you're no threat.
We believe that individuals should be free to act as long as they don't initiate force against somebody else. So we don't believe people with badges have extra rights.
Right now, there's so much going on in our country relative to authority and how it's exercised. I think we're at a critical point as citizens in terms of making sure that we secure our own rights. And he's right, the police don't have a different set of rights. I've heard every argument from the police to resist any tool that would provide accountability or a mechanism for us to hold them accountable. They've always resisted no matter what it is. And this idea that videotaping police is somehow interfering with what they have to do is foolishness. You know, in the last, I don't know how many years, but out of 400 very serious complaints of police abuse in St. Louis, only one of them had been sustained by IAD. You know, you guys, you got some guts, man. I mean, it takes a certain individual to challenge authority like that, face to face, on the street, real time, and really assert your rights, because you have to assert your rights in order to have them.
It's not courage, it's just the change of your mindset. I mean, filming police isn't wrong. The only reason why people don't film police is because they're afraid of going to jail. I've had officers tell me, like, I'm doing my job, and I'd say, okay, well, if your job was to arrest people with blankets, would you arrest people with blankets? And they'd tell me, yeah. I mean, if we don't want it to get to that point, we gotta do something now.
Police culture on paper, our policies are solid. Once I leave the academy and get to the street, that street officer, that veteran is telling me the first thing out of his mouth, forget everything you learned at the academy, we're getting ready to show you how to do this. Within that culture, it comes down to us, them, and who do we value, and whose humanity do we recognize? Ours, us, not his, not them. We do what we want to do. We are the authority. They are to be acted upon, and we will protect our interests and our narrative. We will protect our narrative at all costs. Not only is there no expectation of accountability, there is an expectation of further abuse or retaliation or some penalty, some impunity as a result of you trying to make a complaint about an officer's conduct.
The camera is ultimately going to let people realize that the monopoly on force or protection that the police have is the problem.
Filming folks that purport to work for you is good, but at the end of the day, like, if every police action were filmed, if there were civilian review boards, if there are all these mechanisms in place to try to check the abuse of authority, it's not going to be as good as if this good or service were provided by the market. Because, you know, you said you work with people that are heavy-handed or maybe corrupt or whatever, but ideally, if I was a company that provided, you know, law enforcement or security, like, I would have an incentive not to hire them because they're going to be a liability. Law enforcers or peacekeepers are not going to be doing all these things that erode respect for them in the first place.
I hear what you guys are saying about the marketplace, man, but my practical experience and the reality of privatizing law enforcement is usually the curve turns worse. I mean, think Blackwater. When you contract out these kinds of
services. Well, that's because government.
They take the government out of it.
Really, again, what this comes down to is incentives. And when this good or service is provided by a monopoly, they claim a monopoly on this. They steal money from people within an area and say, you're our customers. They can't fire them. And then they say, oh, we're gonna enforce these laws whether you like it or not. The government, it doesn't have to respond to market signals, so they don't say, oh, we sold X more percent of widgets this quarter as compared to last year. The way they can track their effectiveness is to say, oh, our department grew by 10%. We have more cops on the street, or we have all these new toys to go out and like use on people, or we have all these new felonies that we can arrest people on. Like, I mean, we're talking about pieces of paper. You said, like, they look good on pieces of paper, like the policies that the St. Louis Department has, but how is it in reality? It's the same thing I would say to constitutionalists. Like, sure, on paper it looks pretty good, but a piece of paper can't constrain people, it can't constrain actions. Like, we have to hold each other accountable through, like, market mechanisms and not grant somebody authority.
A round of applause for
appreciate
all our
identify yourself? Do you give out cards?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
all right.
We
So they
write
know who
notes
you are.
and put them on their windshield when
Right.
they're parked illegally and sign our names on them. I give them my email address if they want to contact me. I mean, I'm responsible for my actions. So. Thank you.
Thanks to Show Me Institute for hosting the event. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Keep up the good work.
Keep up. Keep it up.